Hello and welcome to the video. This is a video, kind of an introduction, I guess, to a brand new series that will be starting in the next week or so. And that is me putting iNav into a fixed wing. Actually, a Bixler version 1.1. I'll put links down below for all the pieces that I'm using. But I'm using a Brain FPV Radix flight controller. And that's been a really fun build. For those of you that have never seen the Radix in action, it has a vector-based on-screen display, which is really unusual for the stuff that Betaflight and iNav runs on. And I've had lots of requests to put iNav into that kind of more conventional fixed wing with separate ailerons, elevator and rudder. So hopefully that'll help those of you that get stuck. But I've had lots of comments and questions over the last couple of months with people really getting stuck setting up iNav. And to help those of you that are a bit stuck, I would cover the 4 most common mistakes that I see iNav builders making. Now, the first one is about the mixer. Now, the mixer changed dramatically in iNav 2.0, and it's a very powerful part of the system. Rather than the old, very archaic way of setting it up, you can now change and chop things around, and that makes it really powerful, but it can also be a little bit confusing. The really good news is that if you are going to use a standard plane, quadcopter, or one of the standard models that's already in there, all you have to do is just go into the configurator, go into the mixer tab, pick the kind of model that you're interested in, and if you leave all the defaults, then the wiring diagram showing you where you plug in each of either the ESCs for the motors if you have a multi-rotor, or each of the servos for the control surfaces, as well as the ESC for the motor and prop on the plane, are all exactly as you see it in the diagram. So that's as far as you need to go. Click load and apply and away you go. But there are a couple of gotchas. The first gotcha is that the servo tables in iNav are only read and loaded when the flight controller boots up. So if you're in the servo tab and you go and save everything and your model just suddenly burst into life, particularly if you are on a fixed wing, then my recommendation would be reboot the flight controller. If that's not completely happy, I normally just unplug it, count to 10 and then plug it back in. And when it completely reinitializes, the servo table's usually loaded fine and you are away. I have found a couple of weird things. Now, in the series you're about to see, I do edit the servo table and we're going to do some funky stuff so that the default mix for a plane works beautifully with a Bixler. But one of the things that I found with the latest version of iNav, and I'm using iNav version 2.1, is I had to change one of the numbers in the mixer tab for it all to burst into life. It wasn't just enough for me to delete all the lines in the mixer that I didn't want. I just left myself with a stabilize roll, stabilize yaw and stabilize pitch, which is the elevator, rudder and aileron controls. But unfortunately, the rudder wasn't working at all. Even though everything was plugged in correctly, it just wasn't bursting into life. Coming in and editing the servo number for the stabilized yaw, which is the rudder that wasn't working, it all immediately burst into life and we were good to go. So be aware of that. That's also another little trick that you need to think of when you're using the mixer. But if you are using one of the default mixes and just plugging it in as it's displayed when you select the defaults, you won't have to worry about any of that at all. The next biggest mistake that seems to catch pilots out is not following this radio and control setup that's outlined in the iNav wiki. So let me very briefly cover it here. So the first thing you need to do is make sure that the radio controls are moving in the right way for iNav. So put your sticks to the top right hand corner. This is a Mode 2 radio. Check in the receiver tab in iNav, and when the sticks are in that position, the controls should all be at their maximum position for throttle, aileron, elevator and rudder. If they are, then you are good. If any of them go to the minimum position, reverse that in the radio, and that's the first step done. You shouldn't then have to change any of the stuff in the radio from here on in, because all the goodness is going to be done with iNav. Make sure that the outputs are enabled in the configuration tab, because until you have enabled those, the iNav system won't send any signals to the output pins. Put the craft into manual mode and move the controls on the radio to check that the direction of the control surfaces are all right. Use the standard high five way of checking it to make sure that nothing is backwards. Invariably, you'll find that at least one of the controls is backwards. Don't reverse it in the radio because that's already done. We've sorted that out in the last step. Go into the servo tab and slide the button next to whichever channel is backwards to reverse it in iNav. In the servo tab in the configurator, you can also set the minimum and maximum deflection for those particular servos, so the servos aren't pushed too far in either direction. Once you've done that, then put the model into angle mode and then rock it side to side, yaw it left to right and pitch the nose up and down. And you're looking at the control surfaces and making sure that they move in opposition to the way that you're moving the craft. So when you put the nose down, the elevator should rise. When you tilt the model to the right, the left aileron should rise, etc. So just go through that and make sure that that's happening. You might have to move the plane quite violently. To test it, I tend to put my finger just on the control surface as I'm wobbling the plane around, so I can feel when the control surface moves up and presses against my fingers. Now, if you've done the previous couple of steps right, you will probably find that that's working perfectly. If it isn't, then you need to go back and recheck the direction of the channels in the radio, and you also need to make sure that you've reversed the right control and it's still working properly in manual mode. So the last two problems are all to do with return to home, which is one of the great features of iNav. If you have a failsafe, or if you want it to, you can either have it loiter and just kind of park it in the sky. Very handy if you need to do something like change the battery on your FPV goggles, but also great for GPS return to home in the event of a failsafe or something happening with your FPV signal. You can just kind of hit that switch and the model will come back to you. Now, I had loads of people get in touch say that they have problems with this, and it's something that I have yet to have an issue with, and I think it's because I'm following these two bits of advice. The first thing is always wait until iNav has a solid 3D GPS lock before you arm it. And that's because when you arm iNav, it stores its current location as the home coordinates that it's going to try and get back to in the event of a problem. If there isn't a solid 3D lock, then an arbitrary GPS position is going to be stored, and that's the one it's going to try and fly to when something bad happens, and that probably isn't going to be anywhere near where you are. There are a couple of CLI commands that I would recommend that you make sure are turned on as part of your commissioning. First is set nav extra arming safety is on. That means that iNav cannot be armed unless the 3D lock is there and navigation is safe. It's very clear in the latest versions of iNav when navigation isn't safe, that message appears and is very clear. So don't try and arm until you see that. The second thing that I would recommend is set iNav reset home equals first arm. The reason for this is that if you accidentally catch the arming switch when you're flying and realize what you've done and then immediately kind of rearm it, if that is half a mile away, that new position will be stored as the home location, and that's where it's going to fly back to in the event of a problem. I want the home position to be where I am in the field when I first arm the quadcopter. If I then change my mind, I just have to unplug the power and then replug it back in when I get to where I want the home position to be, and it's a little bit safer, just to make sure that if I accidentally disarm the thing while I'm flying, I don't, when I rearm it, store a new set of home coordinates that are nowhere near me. The last tip is kind of related to that really, and it is a bit of good practice whenever you're dealing with any flight controller that has a GPS return to home function. I always have GPS return to home selected as one of the modes so that I can get it to fly home to me. So before I get too carried away with my iNav model, I'll take it about 100 yards away, I'll flick it into GPS return to home and make sure it flies back to me and either circles over my head if it's a plane or tries to land at my feet if it's a multi-rotor. And if that's all working, then I'll put it back into the angle or horizon or whatever mode I'm actually going to fly with, and then start the flight, safe in the knowledge that all the return to home stuff is going to work. And that should be one of the first things you do at the field. Be prepared to pop it back into angle mode or horizon or even a pass-through or manual mode to fly it back to you if it suddenly starts to take off in the wrong direction. But it's always better to test that so that you know the system is working fine and nothing's happened to iNav or the initialization at the field before you start to fly. And the last thing to do is always double check at the field to make sure that the return to home and the failsafe is all selected. Make sure that return to home is actually what it's going to do in a failsafe condition. We have all that stuff set up in the failsafe tab in iNav, so just triple check it. But again, we'll go through that in the upcoming series. So with those couple of things out of the way, join me in the next week or two where we're actually going to start this build out, and we're going to put iNav on a Brain FPV Radix in a Bixler plane, and hopefully it will help those of you that have been struggling with iNav builds over the last couple of months. Thanks for watching the video and watching right to the very end. You can find me in all the usual places on social media, and if you like the video and like what I'm doing here, then hit the subscribe button and hit the bell notification icon too. If you really like what I'm doing, you can go the extra mile and become one of my Patreons for access to me directly for support, and also giveaways and regular updates too. If you're looking for particular content, then check out the playlist. I organise all of my videos into playlists, so if you're looking for a particular topic, you can find everything here. If it's called Introduction To, it's designed to start very simply and build on that simple introduction to teach you all about it. If it's called For Beginners, then that is really aimed at people who are brand new to that part of the hobby. You can also search on YouTube for anything that you're interested in using the search function at the top. So iNav Painless 360 will find all of my videos and even the playlist around iNav. So thanks again for watching and happy flying.